We'll give the people one more minute or so, and then we'll get started on our meeting. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the February 2nd Town Board meeting. It's 6:30 p.m. I'm calling it to order. And would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
which it stands,
nation under God,
one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
and liberty for all.
I move we approve the agenda, but not necessarily in that order.
Do I hear a second to that?
Second. And
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, and the consent agenda, is there any board members that has any concerns on the consent agenda that they wish to talk about tonight? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to move the consent agenda for approval?
so
So moved, we approve the second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, committee reports.
Nothing on library.
Okay,
Excuse me,
anything,
nothing on fire.
nothing on fire, Tim?
Nothing on fire.
Okay. Susan, anything on library you'd like to report?
Yeah, I guess I would. Currently, if you have little kids, the library is offering free craft kits that are available on a weekly basis. So in this boredom time, stop by, please, and pick them up. Also, the next time you check out materials at the library, you're going to see a new receipt. This receipt is going to help patrons see the value of our library. It'll show you what you would have paid if you were purchasing these materials instead of borrowing them from our library. The Library Policy and Personnel Committee will be screening candidates for the director position in the upcoming weeks of February, as the initial application deadline is February 12th.
Perfect. Any other items on library?
No, I think that should cover it.
I just had, at my level, I just had one follow-up on that. I know there's additional budgetary constraints moving into the future and possible sources of future funding. So that's something as municipalities that we need to be monitoring and hopefully helping on. WTA, there was a meeting a week ago Thursday, and I was not able to attend that. So I have nothing new to report on WTA. EMS, we had our meeting this last week. Things seem to be going very well with EMS, in my opinion. The response time in the town of Hudson is down to 6 minutes and 31 seconds, which is, from my perspective, quite phenomenal when you look at all of the geography that they have to cover. There's been a benefactor or donor in Stillwater who has made a contribution to Lakeview with the stipulation that it goes for 3 new ventilators, state-of-the-art ventilators for both COVID and heart issues. And two of those ventilators are on the Hudson trucks. So 2 out of the 5 trucks, we have the brand new ventilators on, and people are being trained on that. So if the board wants to see any of the background data, which is always quite voluminous, I can get you a copy of that. But that's the main update I wanted to share with you. Also on the chairman's report, I just wanted to reinforce for the people out there that it's on our website. We mention this every year, but please, when you're plowing your snow, keep it on your property and don't push it across the street. We've had a situation where the St. Croix County snow plow, they hit it and it's frozen like a block of ice. So we've had a couple of issues where we've needed to ask the people to cooperate, and they have, which is great. We continue to work with the city on both Carmichael and Old Highway 35. The city and the clerk's office and the county are looking at different, well, I guess plat issues, for lack of a better term, ownership issues as to what pieces of remnant parcels are available for Carmichael Road for future right-of-way issues that we need to resolve. And I guess my best has nothing to do with us other than Mother Nature, but so far we've been getting by very, very easily this year on our snow plowing budget and roads. So we'll see what happens this weekend with black ice, but so far so good on the roads and all the plowing. And that's my chairman's report. Next we have public comment. You can speak on anything items that are not on the agenda. We as board members cannot respond to that, but is there anyone that has anything on their mind or they want to share with us publicly? Okay, hearing nothing, I will move on then. The next one is item number 7, St. Croix Valley Food Bank concept at the corner of Badlands Road and Highway 12. And Warren, I just would maybe tee it up for the public and for the board members. I know you had approached me on this as the chair, and you had visited a little bit with our zoning administrator, but the land that you're looking at is zoned or guided ag residential and currently used by a church. So we want to visit with you, see what your concept is tonight, and see what, if anything, makes sense on that corner. And with that, it's all yours.
Thank you, Don. Yeah, I think you've got it all straight there, and we appreciate the time tonight. Of course, I'm Warren Schneider for everybody and I've been a resident here in town of Hudson for about 20 years. I'm the president of the St. Croix Valley Food Bank, and with me tonight are Ann Searles, who is the executive director of the food bank and United Way, and Cindy Yonke, who's on the board. I'd like to be sure tonight that you understand this is just a concept. We're in the concept phase, and our desire is to develop your understanding of the nature of our operation, the tremendous need, the scope of the expansion, and then to hear your comments and recommendations before we commit major dollars to land purchase and engineering and architectural design. So we're really, I want to bring you up to date, and then I really want to hear your comments, advice, and direction. So I'll take a couple of minutes just to build a snapshot for you of St. Croix Valley Food Bank before getting into the actual site and building expansion proposal. The John Coughlin Food and Resource Center has been operating as sort of a mini food bank since 2007 in partnership with Trinity Lutheran Church. We're truly just seeking to expand capacity because of hunger need in the region. We want to become a true food bank to serve Pierce, Polk, St. Croix, and Burnett counties. We have a proven track record of 13 years in partnering with Trinity Lutheran Church by serving food to those in need. It's a strong and respectful partnership that resulted in a renewal of our lease partnership 3 years ago. At the beginning, we were distributing about 100,000 pounds per year of food to pantries and shelters in Pierce and St. Croix counties. And over time, we've been able to expand into Polk County, and in 2020, supplied over 750,000 pounds of food into the region, all out of our small resource center that we share with Trinity Church on the Badlands campus. Our relationships and partnerships with the faith community beyond Trinity Church were responsible to a large degree for this expanded scope. We're currently partnering with Our Lady of the Lake in Balsam Lake to serve 600 families with volunteers from their organization assisting to distribute pre-packed boxes of healthy food from our mobile pantry van. And we're also working with Faith Community Church in Hudson to provide monthly distributions beginning in April. The 750,000 pounds is only a small portion of the measured real need. State and private agencies studies show a demonstrated need of 6 to 7.5 million pounds per year in the 4 western Wisconsin counties of the St. Croix Valley. In 2020, in addition to the 750,000 pounds from St. Croix Valley Food Bank, another 2 million pounds was distributed in the St. Croix Valley by Second Harvest Heartland. And Second Harvest is located in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, on the northwest side of Minneapolis. Now, they're incredibly skilled at obtaining food through donations, through below wholesale purchase from General Mills, Super Value, and others, and through government-free commodities. They have plenty of food available, but don't have the logistics efficiencies to move it into our rural communities. We've worked with them over the years, and they approached us asking if we would become a full-service food bank, largely supplied by them, that would provide all the local logistics, as well as handle relationships with local communities to develop a system of regular and mobile pantries that meets the 6 million pound need and potentially expands to the 7.5 to 9 million pounds projected after 2023. So with that background, the proposed building expansion that you see on the drawing that was forwarded by Vicki is based on an established, efficient food bank operation in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, that currently distributes 6 million pounds of food to rural Minnesota communities. We've visited their facility and have incorporated improvements that they recommend based on their operating experience. The building would be about 20,000 square feet with roughly 20-foot clear ceilings inside, with drive-in refrigeration and freezer capability. There'd be an attached single-story office and regional food pantry of approximately 5,000 square feet. And we anticipate a preformed concrete panel construction that could be textured and colored to meet town requirements. The building would sit on approximately 4 acres of land that would be purchased from Trinity Lutheran Church, and the close working relationship with Trinity would remain intact. The building fits nicely on the property, easily meeting setback and access driveway requirements. There's more than adequate space for stormwater management, well, septic, and drain field. And at full operation, we expect about 5 employees, plus volunteers, when we're doing repacking and pantry activities. And we anticipate that at full operation, we would see about 4 to 6 semi-deliveries per week, so about 1 per day on average. And St. Croix Valley Food Bank would have a refrigerated straight truck, or possibly 2, plus 2 small vans for delivery. At the intersection of Badlands Road and Highway 12 is already equipped with dedicated turn lanes and traffic signal, and it makes it ideal to manage the modest truck and car traffic that our facility would create. Parking lot lighting would be consistent with that already in place at Trinity Church. There'll be recycling and trash collection facilities that are clean, orderly, and well screened. And we would landscape as necessary to create an appearance consistent with town requirements. So those are the fundamentals of our concept. At this point, I'd like to put forward 3 questions and then pass it back to you, Don. We'd appreciate your comments, recommendations, directional advice, but those 3 questions are, do you see the expansion of our existing operation as a continued permitted use when the current ag residential zoning is in place on this property? And secondly, would we need to have a complete engineering survey of the property prior to sale? And then do you see any other issues with permitting? So with that, thanks for your time, and I look forward to your comments and advice.
Thank you, Warren. I know we're here tonight to talk conceptual plans with you and not detailed issues. I think one of the issues that the board will have to come to grips with is what the intended use of that land will be. If there's any appetite to rezone it to a use that probably on the surface looks like more of a industrial office type use where you have 20-foot clear and semi trucks and offices like an office warehouse. I do want to expand the discussion though, because I think this is a unique piece of property where you're already partnering with Trinity. And depending on how you're structured, to the extent that this could be used as a continued nonprofit type use, such as schools and churches and items that are approved in our existing ag residential zoning, there may be a way through this where this wouldn't have to be rezoned. I think from a public perspective, if I had to address that based on feedback that I've seen from many projects, is the community concern that once it's rezoned, especially to commercial, then that use is there forever. So even though the food use might look like it's a need that would be extending years into the future, if at some point that was ever not a food bank that was repurposed, then it would be subject to the permitted uses under the existing zoning ordinance. So those are the broad issues that I would hope that we could kind of talk through tonight. I'm not sure how you're structured with Trinity or what your ownership issue is or your nonprofit status. Okay. But I wanted to make sure the board had a chance to see it and talk through it and get a sense as to what the board's feelings are on this.
All right, well, just to clarify, the St. Croix Valley Food Bank is a 501c3, so we are a nonprofit, and we were spun out from United Way St. Croix Valley, another nonprofit, and the beginning of this the John Coughlin Food and Resource Center, which is our existing facility, actually is co-owned, or actually the food bank owns the building and it sits on the property of Trinity Church. We have a lease back arrangement where we own the building and they lease us the property, and then we lease back to them half the building for their use for their We Do Feet initiative, their furniture for people in need. So it is definitely a nonprofit operation. It'll just be a larger nonprofit organization. So
Ward, appreciate your patience. Are you referring directly to the building that's already there then, to the east of this, the ones you're proposing?
Yes, it's the sketch, if you have it there, it's the small building that's just to the west of the parking lot.
And I'm not up to speed on this, so I guess I'll just ask questions on behalf of the community and the board. So that building that is there currently, where I could either donate furniture or if I had a need, I could come and pick up furniture, that is currently owned by Trinity, and the building is, you lease the land and the building, or how does that work?
We own the building and we lease the property that it sits on from Trinity Church, and okay. But it ends up being a wash because they lease their half of the building back from us for the same amount that we lease the land from them. So it's a net wash. So they occupy half the building, we occupy half the building.
And I'm certainly not trying to solve the issue tonight, but is that something that they would consider for your proposed building as well then? That they would lease you the land and you could build the building on it?
We've had discussion about that, and we think that from a financing perspective, that the banks would prefer that the owner of the building was the owner of the land as well. So we think that we would be wise to purchase the land from them, but maintain other close relationship with them. So that's our thinking.
Well, and clearly Trinity would have the same concerns that we would in terms of future use, and they're a pivotal part of this plan from what you presented tonight, correct?
Without a doubt. And I thought I saw Neil Fredrickson on here a minute ago, and he is from Trinity Church. I don't see him right now, but
I think he joined us unless he fell off. Let me just see if he's on here.
I think he fell off. This is Kari Hermanson, and I am in by no means here to represent Trinity, but I am a member of Trinity. And I don't know who Tim Foster is, but I see him wearing the Les Berg Memorial Walk Run t-shirt. And Les Berg was actually my father, and he was one of the founders of the We Do Feet program at Trinity Lutheran Church, and was also one of the founding partners with United Way that started this agreement to begin with. So again, I'm not speaking on behalf of the church, I'm just speaking myself, but I know that we really hope to continue that relationship with United Way. It's been a very strong, very profitable relationship for the community historically. So
thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. Well, and because this is a concept discussion tonight, and it'll be somewhat free flowing, is obviously we don't have all the answers either, but between the owners and the bankers and our attorney and people with a background there, if there is a way to structure that, I guess those would, my only comment, that would be a cleaner way to do it than try to rezone it, to try and fit the use into rezoned land. Other board members, do you have thoughts in general or concerns that you might have? This would be the time to.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
So are you looking at dividing that land from Trinity at some point, or is it going to just stay Trinity's land and you're going to lease it back as you do now?
We have a proposal to purchase the land from Trinity.
Okay. So another question I had was the River Falls Food Bank is pretty close, and they just built a new building. And will you be working with them closely, or will you be competing with them, kind of, or how do you view that?
They're actually, it's a River Falls food pantry, and they would be supplied by us. We would become probably their major supplier of food.
Goes into my next question. You'll have straight trucks that will deliver food around the counties.
Correct.
Your own trucks.
Correct.
And you will be working with Second Harvest?
Yes. We're working on a contract where we would become a distribution organization for them. They would be our principal supplier, but we would manage all of the ordering, all of the storage and shipping, and also working with the communities that don't have pantries in order to find a way to get food to those in need in the areas that are underserved today.
Okay. Yeah, I know Second Harvest. I've done work for them with trucking, so yeah, it's a great organization. But it's big. Will they be bringing trucks into you guys too?
Yeah, when I mentioned that we'll be seeing about a semi per day, those would principally be Second Harvest truck.
Okay. I just had a funding question too. Do you have the funding secured for it, or is it something you're still working on, or?
Still working. Perhaps Ann Searles, who's the executive director, would make a comment on funding for me. Would appreciate that.
Sure.
Yes, so we do have some conversations and some grant dollars applications that we have submitted from foundations. So we are just awaiting for that funding. Also, we're in conversations and working with Second Harvest Heartland and reaching out to them to identify some possible funding. Part of this is becoming part of the Feeding America network. So there's funding options available there. So lots of resources and working on it. As Warren said, still working on it. Next week, we will be launching a campaign to raise dollars and more awareness about the St. Croix Valley Food Bank.
And where do you think you're at with funding? Like 50, 75%?
Hey, that's a good question. With grants, the process is you submit a grant request and then you wait to hear back from the foundation. So we are waiting for a couple foundations to get back from a standard timeline that has already been established. I can share with you the United Way St. Croix Valley Board of Directors approved the transfer of the assets of the John Coughlin Food Resource Center to the St. Croix Valley Food Bank independent nonprofit as of October 1st. So we do have a foundation of dollars that are in place at this point, but we surely will need to raise more dollars to build the building that Warren is talking about today.
Okay, good. Congrats on that. Thanks for that. The only observation I have is the zoning part. I think it would benefit, if you are splitting the piece of property off, I think it would be beneficial to you guys and the town to maybe possibly rezone it commercial, but that's something we'll have to talk about, I think. But that's all I have.
Thanks for your comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Dan?
Yeah. I want to go back to the traffic just a little bit, if you don't mind. So you had mentioned that there would be 4 to 6 semis delivering, per week, almost one a day. But you also described the fleet in terms of taking the food out, and but I don't think you quantified the traffic. How frequently or would be vehicles would be leaving the property. So could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Okay, we anticipate that we'll have routes that are set up where we load the truck at night and then the truck goes out in the morning, is pretty much gone for the day and returns in the afternoon. So if we have 2 trucks, and we'll have to expand considerably to need 2 trucks, but when at that point, I would expect that there would be 2 trucks leaving in the morning, 2 trucks arriving in the afternoon.
Okay.
And then potentially the small vans, which they're little Ford vans that were funded by Otto Bremer Foundation. Are it's kind of like a car traffic actually, but they go out as needed, probably once a day or less.
Okay. So yeah, so probably only 5 to 6 entry exits per day or something like that. Or something.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to keep in mind with our Second Harvest Heartland deliveries, right now they come about 7:30 a.m. once a week on Wednesdays. They're early delivery. So that is something to keep in mind. That may change as we get bigger, but that's how it is currently set up.
Sure. Okay. Good.
Good questions. Thank you.
Yep.
Did you say this will have a frozen component too, Warren, or it's refrigerated, or what is the actual?
Yeah. A lot of the high quality food has to be refrigerated or frozen. So we will have capacity for both of those. There'll be a big enough capacity that we can actually drive a fork truck in and put pallets in. The bulk of the warehouse will be normal, ambient air, but there'll be a significant portion that's refrigerated and frozen.
Other question from the board members?
I got several.
I got a
Go ahead,
question.
Susan.
Okay, so is this going to be just a food bank? Or is it going to be also set up for people to individually come and pick up as needed?
That's a really good question. There is, if you look at the sketch, there's about a 5,000 square foot single story bubble on the south side of the building that's intended for office space and as a food pantry to serve people in the region that don't have a food pantry in their own community. So if someone from, say, Glenwood City needs food pantry, they will be able to drive up to our facility and pick up food directly. The principal operation is certainly to provide to other food pantries, but there will be a small food pantry operation attached.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any estimate for that activity?
Oh, I'll have to defer to Ann on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be a situation where we're open maybe one day a week, possibly two, but not a daily opening. We want to just be that catch-all location. What we're finding is in the region, across the region, there's about 30 food pantries. And with the recent COVID, there's been some challenges with the distribution of food to those in need. We have not been able to allow people to come into buildings. And there's just been some challenges for some of our volunteers, smaller food pantries in these rural areas to be able to respond to the needs. So I definitely not an everyday operation, maybe a 1 to 2 day operation.
I think it's important to note too, this will not be in competition with the Christian food cupboard in Hudson. That is the Hudson food pantry. We'll supply food to them. We will not compete with them.
Thank you. Are you done, Susan?
I am. The floor is
Okay.
yours.
I got several comments, Warren. Some of them are answers to some of the questions you asked in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good idea. With the current zoning, I'd have to read the zoning carefully, but I believe that in our ag residential and in all permitted uses, churches are accepted, but I don't think nonprofits are one. Okay, which means, yes, we'd have to rezone it as Ken indicated. Right now, as Don indicated, office warehouse is probably what it would be considered, and that's only in industrial. Okay, so you'd have to rezone industrial to be a permitted use, which is spot zoning, which I don't believe anybody else along that road to the north all the way up to North Lake is going to want to rezone industrial, because it's probably not going to happen. However, if we wanted to rezone it commercial, as Ken indicated, we as a town board would have to discuss that. You would have to propose rezoning it to commercial, and then we'd have to have a hearing and rezone it to commercial. And we would have to change the commercial zoning to allow office warehouse as a permitted use. Okay?
Okay.
So all of those things have to come in place. One of your other questions was, will you need to have a designer? Yes, you will, and you would work with our engineering firm. The frontage roads, as an example, your setbacks are sufficient. The Badlands, as designated by the DOT, as a major collector. So all driveways have to be 500 feet away. And that your road, which probably needs to be a frontage road, needs to be moved a little bit further to the east so it's 500 feet, the edge of the road. Okay?
Okay.
And then that would need to go all the way through and be built, and the Trinity driveway would have to go away because it's less than 500 feet then. Okay, so where you show your access road would meet the Trinity parking lot. That would work. So all of that has to happen, and then you do your stormwater and everything in there. but I think it's got the chance of working okay. It's just that there's a lot of stuff that has to happen, Warren, to be able
Okay.
to get that to work.
All right. We can deal with a lot of stuff if we know what it is that we have to deal with.
Yes, I understand.
Mhm.
Okay.
Has there
That
been
was what I had.
precedent? Has there been a precedent in the town where you have approved a nonprofit for rezoning?
You know, I think the precedent,
I
that's why I kept coming back to the central theme of Trinity's involvement here with the church,
Mhm.
because that's really a
Yeah.
central player as to what our zoning ordinance is. Tim is exactly right, which I didn't want to get too far into the site plan tonight, but if we can avoid, let me just restate my concerns. Any other supervisors want to say anything? I would just
No.
state my concerns as simply as I could.
Mhm.
If we were to rezone it to anything, commercial or industrial at this point, not knowing what we were doing overall, it would be a spot zoning approach. I would have major concerns with rezoning it to commercial and not having some type of deed restrictions or covenants on that where it's, you know, next to a church. We're now doing an office 20-foot clear food storage facility with semis in a commercial zoning. That really doesn't fit the criteria either. And of course, my overriding concern, as I shared, is if boards change and people change, you know, now we have a use there from a town's perspective that runs with the land. So it could be repurposed, readapted, redeveloped, and we would not have control over that other than through what the permitted uses are under that zoning. So that would be a major community concern. I don't have the answers tonight. Who asked that, Cynthia? Did you or did Ann ask that question about the nonprofits? I just think if we would explore that a little bit further to see if that's a possibility, that might be our next discussion point. I'd hate to see you get into a point where we're literally redoing our zoning ordinances and you're redoing all of your engineering costs on this site, thinking it's a possibility, and then it would not be approved. And as long as we're looking at the site plan as proposed, clearly we would not allow that future road to go up through to the ballpark for the proposed site access road. I'm not sure what that was drawn on there, but I assume this is just a concept plan.
Correct.
The
I have a
YMCA in the
question. I
town
got
of
a
Hudson?
Go ahead.
What was your question?
What was your question?
Is the YMCA in
What
the
was your
town of
question?
Hudson?
No,
It is.
it's not. It's in the city.
Okay, okay.
Tim, you had a comment?
That road, Don, would have to go through. We should be requiring a frontage road along 12 because they can't get access up. The boosters, that frontage road should go all the way through. At some point, we need to make sure that every parcel of land has a frontage road going through on both sides of 12. That's why Classic Drive was done that way. That's a good road. That is. It just needs to be moved a little bit further to the east to be 500 feet from 12.
I agree with that.
And built to town standards. You're saying have that as a town
Correct.
road?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
Give value to the town.
Hey,
Yep.
Tim,
Yeah.
Neil Frederick here with Trinity Church. I thought the boosters
Yes.
already had the right of way on the north end through the two properties on the north end. I was told that by the boosters. Apparently I'm not correct on, or they were incorrect on that comment?
They kind of had a concept, Neil. They never really knew exactly. They kind of would like to go through that parcel to the north in the middle, but I'm sorry, that probably won't happen either. You know what I mean? Because the people that own the land to the north of the boosters are probably not going to want that road going through the middle. And so we should talk about now and into the future for everything going from Badlands up to Classic Drive
Sure.
as a town.
Go ahead. That's all I had.
Yeah, Neil, you are correct. We did talk about that at length. The proposed access to the ball field is from the north. And
Yep.
there was a frontage road proposed that went all along the west side of this building. And I know Trinity was not in favor of that at the time. And we had multiple discussions about not dumping that traffic onto Badlands because of the stacking there.
Right.
When you have all those games, you'd be pouring all that traffic onto Badlands and try and stack it to hit those lights.
Uh-huh.
So to me, that's not a resolved issue tonight, that's a foregone conclusion that if this new proposed use came in with Trinity's control of the land, that would have to be a road that extended to the next parcel. I mean, you've got all of your frontage, the land to the north has a road proposed, it's been proposed there forever, and the boosters have showed where that road would go.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you're saying you would like to see a frontage road on that west side with an entry coming out Badlands and looping the west and then going north. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, I'm
That was
saying,
my thought. Don says no, I say yes.
well, the issue is not tonight to relitigate the
Yeah, no, that's right.
boosters. The issue tonight is what was agreed to when the boosters came in. And
Right.
there was a road shown that went along the west side of this building and dumped all that traffic onto Badlands Road. And Neil, you and Dan Brathel and the people at the time in the Trinity leadership role,
Right.
you guys did not want that.
Correct.
And the town said that we would not require that. That was not a condition of, you didn't have to agree to that in order for the boosters to come in and develop that. The landowners to the north of you are the ones that needed to put roads through there to get to that property, not requiring you to add roads to your property to access theirs.
Okay.
We had multiple discussions on that. There is adequate access onto Highway 12 across from Denny Rolls as to where that future road will go through and serve that land and
Right.
come down and hit the ball fields.
Okay.
The boosters have come back in subsequent to this and said, we only want to build a gravel road down there until that future land use is determined as to how that develops. But we might be in disagreement tonight, but on guiding principles, that there was never an understanding that you as Trinity would be forced to provide an access road on any part of your property to the boosters.
Right. Right. No, I
Me
understand.
personally, I don't think this use tonight triggers that, because you have more than adequate access onto Badlands
Correct.
for all of your uses here. At some point, the landholders to the north, the 20 acres of the boosters and the 16 to 20 acres of the Will Savage land, that's where the roads have to be developed through there to develop that property.
Sure. Sure. One more question.
But
to
it's
Tim.
not going to be Trinity land in the future, Don.
Well, it's not going to be, well, it will, it's not going to be Trinity land in the future, but Trinity land in the future, they don't need an access road here to go through. But
But you
I
can't
think,
have a driveway, you can't have multiple driveways onto Badlands that are less than 500 feet apart.
yeah, but they could have a shared driveway.
I thought it was just from the
Well, you
intersection.
could.
Tim, I thought it was the issue was the road driveway had to be 500 feet off the main intersection to the driveway to the proposed United Way building.
That's correct. And because Badlands is a major collector determined by the DOT of Wisconsin, that road requires that all driveways in the future have to be 500 feet apart. So you can't have the Trinity driveway and the food bank driveways less than 500 feet apart.
I think they're gonna remove the existing access to Trinity from what I'm looking at, Tim.
That would be my That's what I agree. That I said
That's
that
what-
just make sure that that happens.
Isn't that what your plan says, Warren?
I believe that's true, and I'd have to
I
go
mean,
back and look, but
It
we'll,
shows a site access road running west to east towards Trinity.
Mhm, yeah.
So I'm
Good.
assuming you would remove the existing
Right,
access.
yeah, we'll have, I understand exactly what you're saying. We'll have to work it out. The sketch that you have was done as a concept, and I know the church has a daycare facility there. They're concerned about parents and kids and semi-traffic mixing it up. So we'll have to work with them to be sure that we come up with a solution that meets the DOT requirements and
Yep.
the needs of the church and the food bank. So let's
Right.
give us a little bit of time to work that through.
Yeah.
Do we
Warren,
have anywhere, Don, where we have a shared driveway with commercial and ag res?
Tim, I don't know that. We'll have to take a look at that.
Okay.
So
I think for tonight, because we've spent a lot of time on this, we have a long agenda to get through here. I do want to move it along. I would suggest that perhaps Warren, we visit with your group and we take a look at our ordinance and talk to our attorney and see if there's a process whereby a nonprofit could accomplish this. Or perhaps now Trinity, hearing the constraints that we're all under here, perhaps there's another way to solve the land lease, land ownership issue and still work through the funding issues with the banks. But I think we all have some additional homework to do on it, I guess is my takeaway tonight.
Okay. And what should we do as a next step from the food bank perspective to keep the conversation going with the town?
I think what we need to do is visit with our attorney and take a look at our ordinance and see how a deal could be structured for a nonprofit as opposed to a church.
Okay.
And get through that hurdle first. If we're rebuffed at that, I think then we need to see if there's a mechanism whereby Trinity could still work with all of us on some type of a land lease type deal to continue to be part of this as a church type entity.
Mm-hmm.
But I would really think we should expend our time there first, as opposed to trying to trip the trigger on any type of rezoning, permitted use type deal, because that's going to be a long, drawn out process.
I understand, and I like where you're going with this. Yes.
Okay. All right. Then with everyone's condolences or everyone's blessings, I should say, is I want to move on because we've got quite a bit left to do on our agenda. Anything else from any of the people involved with this? Okay.
Just want to say thank you. Just thank you for this opportunity.
You have a laudable goal, and I will do our best to try and figure out how something could work.
My thanks to the whole board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. We all appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Next,
Thank
with
you.
that,
Thank you,
with that-
Carrie.
With that, I'm going to move on. I have, I'm going to move up our friends from Cedar Corp. And let's see, is Kirsten here with Cedar Corp, or who will be visiting with us tonight?
It's going to be Mitch Evenson.
Mitch, okay, can you turn your camera on for us so we can talk through it? Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Mitch Evenson with Cedar Corporation, and I'm here on behalf of the Wisconsin DNR and the Junker Landfill Trust to ask the Town of Hudson permission to do some additional monitoring wells in the right-of-way of town roads in relationship to the ongoing remediation that's going on with the Junker landfill, and also with what we call the Town of Warren TCE spill. They're kind of both combined together here. I had some maps that I think Don has shared with everybody. I can try to do a screenshot also, Don. It's up to you how you want to show this information.
Mitch, if you can get control of our Zoom meeting without knocking us all offline, you can give it a shot.
All right, I can
How's it
see
for being
what, I'll see what happens here.
If not, I have shared all of the information with the
Okay,
board.
maybe we can just do that then, because I know you have to give me permission to
Let me
take
see what
the
I can do.
stage.
Let me see what I can do here quick while we're doing
All
this.
right.
Let's see where Mitch is. All right. I guess I need to. Let me see if that will work for you, Mitch, and if not, we'll just talk through it.
Okay,
And with that, just for, because we have a lot of people online tonight, let me, if you don't mind, Mitch, I'd like to just set the stage real quickly.
you bet.
So basically, what Mitch has shared with us and Kirsten, we have the Junker landfill. We have some other issues from Warren Township and all things in our township with monitoring. We have a lot of homes here, and as consultants to Junker landfill stipulations through the DNR reports, which we get once a year. There's always a copy at the town hall. There's always one at the library, but there's a need for additional testing wells, and they're anywhere from 40 to 160 feet deep. They could go on people's land, but we have so many homes in the area now, and the ease of trying to get those easements are harder and harder. So the DNR and Mitch's organization through Cedar Corp has requested the town to look at granting them the right to put wells in our right of way. And the maps that you sent us and we sent on to the board, there's probably about, I would say 9 different wells. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7 to 9 wells, and they would go in the right of way of these town roads. And with that, Mitch, maybe you can explain to us your urgency and where they would be placed and where you've done it in the past, so we have some type of precedence to look to.
Okay, I did a little research done after we had talked earlier, and we do actually have 2 monitoring wells currently in the town of Hudson right of way, and that would be right on the edge of the township. It would be Young Road or 87th Avenue, and one of the maps that I had sent along was a large site map. It was basically a scan which shows the entire area and all the sampling that's been done in that area. The green square or rectangle on that, triangle on that map is the Junker landfill. And then straight south of that on that map would be Young Road or 87th Avenue, I believe it's called, in the town of Warren. So there are 2 wells. There used to be a cul-de-sac at the end of that road. That road was extended. So if you have that map in front of you and you kind of zoom into that area, you'll see an MW13 and a P14. Those are 2 of the existing monitoring wells that are actually in the town of Hudson. They would be similar wells. What we're requesting now would be at the locations identified in yellow on that large map where it says 2 wells or 1 well in that large on that large map. Those are the locations. The other figures that I sent you were just kind of blow up to those areas, just so you can see a little bit closer detail of where we're looking at.
And for the benefit of the people that don't have access to these maps, we're talking a couple at the end of Yellowstone Trail, a couple up on Packard Drive, well at the end of Fraser Lane, a couple of wells at the end of Pine Timber Lane. So there's a significant amount of additional testing that you'll be looking at in those wells to see where things are migrating.
Correct. And the idea here is to expand the monitoring well network. The network that exists for, in particular, the Junker landfill portion of this is from the early 90s. There's been a lot of development in this area since then, and we're trying to fill in the data gaps basically with these monitoring wells as this continues and moves forward, the remediation of this site.
Mitch, I think some of the
I
concerns.
got a couple of questions. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, go ahead, Tim.
I got several questions, Mitch.
Yeah.
As one of the gals from the EPA in the early 1980s that came, or 1990s that came out of Chicago, indicated at that time, you didn't want the EPA here because it'd take 50 years for Mother Nature to clean up the water table, and it's working. So my question is, with these additional monitoring tape wells, how long do you think we still have with monitoring? And then after that's done, who will pay for removing those wells, and how would that happen?
Okay. So right now, the wells that are associated with the town of Warren, that's a state lead. So that's the state of Wisconsin. And some of this is combined with the Junker landfill. It's the Junker Landfill Trust currently that pays for those. When that trust is ended, this would be revert back to the state also. So it would all be state of Wisconsin from that standpoint, who would maintain these wells and over the duration. Length of time, we've seen quite a bit of decrease here over the years, but one thing that's happened recently is the standards for a lot of these compounds are dropping. At one time, we were looking at 5 parts per billion, and the main contaminant here, I should say, is TCE, trichloroethylene, for both of these. It used to be 5 parts per billion. The state is proposing to drop that to 0.5 now for drinking water, which brings this all into a longer span. So what you looked at in 1992 for a cleanup level is now much higher, the cleanup level. We're dropping it from 5 to 0.5, which is quite substantial. If you look at that map, all those green dots are homes where we've sampled residential wells, or we continue to sample wells. They have carbon treatment. Those are all the impacted wells that are above 0.5 yet. And as you can see, if you look at that map closely, especially if you look at Pine Timber Lane, all that development, we really don't have, we're kind of to the end. We don't have, there's probably going to be more happening toward the west. And we're trying to fill, instead of relying on using residential sampling, it's much more reliable. We can screen and target our areas and where we want to sample the water with monitoring wells. So that's why we want to expand the monitoring well network to keep monitoring this and see what we can do. There may be areas with this additional wells that we don't have to have people have carbon treatment. We may be able to reduce some of the special well construction area. So we're really kind of updating since the early 90s, we're updating our data and defining our parameters much better than we have.
Is there a sunset clause on when the Junker landfill trust will end?
We'd have to defer that to the DNR, but I believe there is, yes, what that date is.
Can I make a statement?
Sure.
I don't really see the logic to drilling more wells with all the residential wells. I know you might put some monitoring on them, but isn't it just as easy for you guys to just take samples out of residential wells? There's hundreds of them, thousands of them. I mean, I don't see the logic in drilling more holes.
The idea is that we don't have control over where we're sampling the water from on a residential well. It's an open borehole in this area. So the casing is drove down, it's into the rock. What these wells do is target where we're trying to sampling so we can define where the contamination is going. When you look at these areas where it says 2 wells, those wells they'll be screened at certain intervals based on the groundwater elevation. TCE is a sinking compound, so it dives as it goes through the water table. So the water on top may be clean, but the water down at different depths, say 30 feet below the top of the water table, may be contaminated. So these wells that you see on here, it says wells, but they're actually what we call piezometers to try to target those areas and define where this material is moving. So it's really getting more accurate data. Although, as you can see, there's spots in here where why are some of these wells dirty and why are some of them not dirty? There could be a couple of different factors. One could be where the open borehole is and where it's intersecting the contaminated water. so that could be one of the factors why we're not seeing some of these wells. The others could be fractures or the geology, but the idea is to try to target and get better data to define where it is. And as things move along, another goal is not to have to, if we have better data, we probably won't have to put, right now we kind of spray everybody with a carbon filter. It's in that area. In other words, if they drill a hole, they get a carbon filter, the landfill trust pays for it. The idea here would be to get better data and maybe not to have everybody do that, and maybe reduce this special well casing area with some better data. So it really goes into a long-term monitoring situation. And honestly, a lot of people don't allow us to sample all their wells. You'd be surprised how many people we contact that don't give permission to sample their well. And even some people don't want treatment. So it's trying to get better data.
And is there some sort of concern that you, I mean, I don't want to state this the wrong way, but is there a migration concern where you think it's migrating away from its current area?
Well, as you can see, if you look at just looking at this map, you can see the green houses on here where there's been samples. So green means there's contamination, and that's with the highlighter. And if you look at the red line, that's the special well casing area. You can see there's actually homes outside the special well casing area. If you look to the north, that's why we're looking at trying to get a better handle on what might be moving that direction. In the last 2 years, we've done some pretty focused and some pretty, I would say, more intensive sampling in the area, done a lot more contact with people, trying to fill data gaps by just sampling residential wells. And this is kind of the next step to filling some of that data gap to get a better handle on it in the long run. These wells are going to be here for a long time, and the monitoring is going to be happening for a long time. I can't tell you how long, but it's going to be several, if not decades, of monitoring before this is totally done. And these will be wells that'll be used. The wells to the north are what we would call sentinel wells, something that we'd be able to monitor and sample on our, once or twice a year, screen at intervals where we feel that are important to watch the groundwater and monitor the groundwater without having to contact people, and keep a tab on the TCE plume.
I would just add to the discussion, just because this is a learning process for all of us. I talked to Mitch, I talked to the county. I asked specifically about their concerns of, have you seen putting wells in the right of way make sense? They said they had. They would like to see them marked, so they don't hit them with their snow plows. In your packet, you'll see what they look like for a wellhead. My knee-jerk reaction at the beginning was, this is something that should probably be done on private land. But the more I've looked into it, and the more we look at the public safety for all of us here, this would provide ease of access and a quicker way to get this retesting in place. The concern I have is I would not, on behalf of the town, want to just say, yeah, go ahead and put them out there. I really think, Mitch, we need some type of agreement or understanding that, if we messed up and had it put in the wrong place, you'd have to relocate it, or if a road needs to be extended through there, we've got to make sure we know exactly where you're putting them. You had shared with us, and you could maybe share a little bit further, that you try and put them as far back on the back end of the easement as possible, correct? So you stay
right. Yeah. So what we would do, for instance, if we look at, was it Yellowstone Trail, I believe, that where we have two of them just to the west of the Junkers landfill, we would squeeze those right back against the right of way as close to the woods as we can, so we're not in any future alignment where the road would go straight ahead. And I don't have those, if you look at the smaller drawings. So we would have our surveyor go out and find the right-of-way line and put those wells right back as far as we can, close to the right-of-way, on township right-of-way. And when I've scaled off, like on Google Earth and walking and looking at these sites, we'd probably be about 15 to 20 feet off the pavement. So we'd be very back of the right-of-way with the well. The question on whether, if something changed, let's say there was a total, the total realignment of the road for some particular reason, these wells can be cut off and made into what we call a flush mount, where we put a small manhole cover over the top of them. We prefer not to do that because number one, they're hard to find in the winter and they're harder to maintain. And when we have a well that has a stick up, which looks like what I would call a telephone pedestal, they're easier to maintain and they don't get water in them. It's a maintenance thing in the long term for us to have a regular stick up to find them. And we try to get them as far back off the pavement so they aren't a plowing issue. A hazard that way. But there are alternatives. I mean, if things did change, they can always be abandoned if they absolutely had to, and they can always be cut off and then covered with a manhole cover.
I'm kind of curious, just looking at the one on Packer Drive.
Mhm.
Is the choice of like putting it on the inside of the curve rather than the outside to protect it more so that it's less likely for a vehicle to slide off and hit it, or
Yeah,
those kind of things taken into account?
Yeah, we had 3 different spots there, and when I drove that location with Candace Sikora from the DNR, I thought was kind of the more difficult location to find because there's really not there's quite a few homes in that area, and trying to squeeze it back on where it's not in front of someone's house, obviously in their front yard. So that's why we have kind of 3 different locations. The intersection of Packer and LaBarge. If you go north where the yellow, where it says 2 wells, there's kind of a flat area off to the east of the road there.
Mhm.
And there's some trees. We could push it back that way where it'd be easy to get a rig in back close to the edge of the right of way. And then the other location there's a culvert that goes under Packer Drive where that curve is you were just mentioning, trying to get off the road in that direction to the north. And again, yeah, looking at traffic and plowing, just trying to get them as far as we can. But I wanted to have some options in that area just because one thing too is obviously marking utilities, there could be gas, there could be fiber. We have to have some ability to move around a little bit to find a location so we can stay far enough away from those type of utilities.
Yeah.
But I kind of we had a few options up there just because we do have some flexibility. We don't have to stick them exactly in a spot, but we want to be in that good general area to get that data. And those 3 locations to that north side were what we thought were good locations or good alternatives.
And I expect that, as a matter of goodwill, you do nice landscaping around them and everything like that. So you're not leaving a pile of dirt or a hole or whatever.
Correct. So some of these locations we would probably need, these are large drill rigs because we're drilling rock. It'd be just like when you see a rig doing a residential well, we're doing only a 2-inch casing, not a 6-inch casing like most wells in that area. We'll bring up drill cuttings. We're going to have a dumpster, or we'll make a stockpile. We'll pick up all the cuttings, dispose of the cuttings. We may have to bring a little gravel in if there's a dip in the road to back into those areas with the drill rig. And we'd have to do some cleanup and restoration of that in the spring if we did it, let's say this winter in March or April. And we would clean it up, reseed that, and mulch it. The area we would disturb for each, but you can imagine like backing up a truck into the ditch, that would be the area you'd disturb.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If I could.
Sure.
Have the residences adjacent to these wells been notified of a potential well put in their front right away?
No, and what we would do is we would notify them and let them know. We have a list of all the addresses, and here we have quite a database in this area, you can imagine, of all the residents here. And what we would do is notify them that we were going to be doing that work.
I would think that would have to be done before I could support this. I mean, I would think the residential properties where these are going to go in front of their homes would have to be notified before I could support it.
Okay. Yeah, and again, we would work with the resident to move stuff so it wasn't right in front of them. And that's why, so it's against the trees, that type of thing. But yeah, we could definitely notify them and let them know that those were coming and that we were planning on doing that and work with them.
I think to add to that, depending on how the discussion goes tonight, I think the minimum parameters that I've heard is that, we need to have a minimum, some type of letter agreement, legal document. The town would have to have control over the final placement as to where they would go. There'd have to be some stipulation in there that they would either replace, remove, or, take down underneath the existing elevation to make that like a manhole cover. 2-inch cases versus a 6-inch, and notify the neighbors. Those would all be things in that letter agreement between the town, the Cedar Corp, and the DNR if we were to cooperate. But I think that is doable. And I know we have TCE issues from Junker and TCE issues from Warren, and to the extent that that can be monitored, and perhaps in the future some of these carbon things ameliorated or minimized, I think that would be good for the community.
Yeah, we do have standard type agreements that I can share, and actually the DNR also has a standard format for that also, that I can provide for access agreements.
Other concerns for the board? I don't want to be selling it on behalf of the DNR, but I think those are wonderful concerns to address.
What I said about the residences being addressed to this is, I just think they should be notified. I mean, up to this point, I think they should have been notified so that they have an idea this is happening, so they have the opportunity to come to this meeting and voice any concerns and listen to the information. At this point, these people on Packer Drive, and they don't have any input because they don't know what's going to happen. So I have a real hard time supporting something that's going to go in someone's front right away.
But the only problem, Ken, is it is in the right of way. It's not in their yard.
I know it is.
You know what I mean?
I know it is, but to be respectful of these residents.
Let me help out. I want to hear from the other board members too. I'm not saying this is a pure concept plan, but this is their first chance to present to us as to what their needs are. So I would certainly envision a second meeting with them to say, okay, just like we do with preliminary plats and site plans and everything else. Okay, you've notified the neighbors. We've got a letter agreement that we're in agreement on. We have the stipulations within it, and then the board votes on it to see, to put it in place. I don't see us acting on this tonight.
Exactly. And I agree. Don't get me wrong. That's not that I don't support this. I think it's a good idea. I live within a half mile from here. So, it's my concern as much as anyone else's. I just want to make sure that the right steps are taken to do it. I definitely support it. It's definitely something probably needed, but.
Good.
Well, and I got a question too, as far as like on Yellowstone, we as a board there was one of our residents wanted to put a access down onto Yellowstone, and they were prevented from that because the DNR said that was considered a wetlands area, and that's about where those wells would be going into. How is that being affected on a wetland area?
I'm glad you asked.
That's a good point.
We have the DNR and Cedar Corp here tonight. So
the wells on Yellowstone are up on top of the hill. I don't believe that's in a wetland area. I think all of these are pretty, not that I'm aware of anyway. Normally, the installation of a well normally isn't there's not much any criteria that I'm aware of for in regards to wetlands for the installation. Obviously, you can't fill it. You got to containerize your cuttings and everything, but there's nothing that I'm aware of from a monitoring well installation standpoint that would dictate that you could or couldn't because of a wetland.
I got one more question, Mitch.
Yeah.
Ken brought up something interesting, and as I've looked at where almost all of these wells are going, they're outside of the well advisory area. So are you concerned that we may be expanding the area if the state lowers it to 0.05 parts per million with the TCEs?
I can't speak particularly for the state, but I say it's highly likely that we're going to see an expansion of the well advisory area. or the special.
Okay, that's what I thought might be happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to have well sampling to find out where it is. All right, I get it.
Correct. And again, a lot of these, if you've noticed, we've expanded a lot of sampling outside the special well construction area. Not just with the Junkers landfill, but if you take that big map back towards the town of Warren Plume, we're also looking at that area too. And we've been in contact and sending lots of letters out. So that's all part of this also, yes.
Okay. That's all I got.
Thanks, Tim. Dan, questions? Any further questions from the other board members?
No.
Do we want to move ahead with this just conceptually, or does someone want to make a motion to put it in a motion with some of the items I talked about before, or what's the wishes of the board?
Yeah, I do think we want to go ahead with, identifying, some of the concerns that we have that, with the idea that they would address those. But I'm not sure, how we would verbalize that. I don't know if somebody's got a format.
I don't mind making a motion. I mean, it's going to be a generic motion to move forward. So I'll make the motion and we can modify it as we wish. I guess I would make the motion that the town of Hudson continue to cooperate with Cedar Corp and the DNR on putting together a plan that would allow for a future agreement that would provide for control over the placement of the wells, the replacement and removal or modification of the wells if our roads get modified in the future, that the wells would be a 2-inch casing for testing and not a 6-inch casing, that all tailings and drillings would be taken off from site. All neighbors would be notified of the final plan, and an additional hearing would be held on it, or meeting would be held on it, so that the neighbors and the town knows exactly what we're entering into. And that would be my motion.
That looks pretty good.
Do I hear a second to that?
I'll second that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further? Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The motion's carried.
Aye.
Okay, and Mitch, then you can continue to work with us and Candace from the DNR. So that will give us a way to keep moving forward to coming up with a plan.
Okay, and we will send you I think what we'll do is put together the agreement that we've used with other townships and the state and
Great.
the DNR has, and I will send you that as an example. And we'll craft any additional language we need in it. And we'll probably reach out, and if it's okay with you, we'll reach out and send letters to the residents where we're considering going in front so they understand what we're doing, so that they have an understanding that that'll be happening, that you may approve us to do some of that in the right of way. And see what the response is. And we do have flexibility. I mean, we're willing to work with whoever we can move one way or the other to some extent. So if someone's adamantly against it or it's a terrible location, we'll try to work with everybody.
Okay, and then once we get that refined, we'll have you back once more for a final vote on the final product. And I think that's wise planning for everyone.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mitch.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm going to move on. Item number 8, we have discussion on Lot 1 CSM for Gerald Jacobs. I think that's all positive. My update for everyone, including as late as today, is that the Jacobs are redoing their plan. They're looking at having one parcel of approximately 40 acres and one parcel of approximately 35 acres, a easement agreement for the driveway, and they have a new surveyor that's putting that work together. As soon as they have that put together, they'll give us courtesy copies, but I think it's a much cleaner plan than what we were doing before. So that's my update as of 4 o'clock today. Discussion.
So it'll be on that, maybe on our next meeting then?
Maybe on our next meeting, and Tim, I honestly don't know if they both stay over 35 acres, it might not even hit our subdivision for the town or the county, but we'll see what their final plan is of what they're doing.
But it's still a CSM, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe it is. I believe it is. It's a work in process right now, and it got pulled. So that's what I know for sure.
And Don,
Okay.
Don, what were they going to do about the abandoned house?
That's going to be taken down. That's going to be taken down in any scenario.
I had heard, Don, that her plan was when they start the basement, that they'd have Palmester tear the house down at the same time.
Correct.
So they'd be a single contract.
Correct. And the well couldn't be
So
abandoned
to answer you,
because
Yeah.
that serves the existing house that they have. All right, any other questions on that tonight?
No.
Okay. Discussion and action on pay for deputy clerk. Vicki, you want to fill us in on that? Vicki, there you are.
So we have not updated the pay schedule on that. And in looking at neighboring municipalities, we need to look at updating our pay schedule for that. Neighboring is anywhere from $18 to $25 an hour.
Okay, which neighboring ones would they be, Vicki?
The ones that I looked at,
Hmm?
all over. City of Hudson, Village of North Hudson, Town of St. Joe. I didn't hear back from Troy. So, and then I just went out on the MCA website too. They have salaries out there. So I was just looking to see what was out in the all over the state for the ones that reported to the Clerks Association.
what do you think we should pay, Vicki?
I would think at least 18.
And are we paying
I'm
about
okay with that.
16 now, Vicki?
15 still.
15? Discussion amongst the board members, questions that you have?
I guess, so is this, like, how many hours is this in reference to? What was our, what are we basing it on?
We're not right now. There was no hours based, but 1 to 2 days a week, depending on, the activity.
Okay. Okay, so so that's typically the 2 days is like more or less a maximum. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, if it was like in 2020, I could have used someone 5 days a week.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I don't see, maybe in 2022, again, we're going to be right back in the same boat we were in 2020. So if something, I might come to the board and say we need more hours.
Yeah. Okay.
Other questions from the board?
So, well, I guess let me go back to the 18 to 25. So that was the complete range, or was that,
Yeah, that was just,
yeah,
I mean, some were a little higher than 25 or whatever, but some also had full benefits and other, you know.
Mhm, right.
And we don't have any benefits whatsoever, including Social Security. So it, you know,
Yeah.
can become a little
Mhm.
difficult to find.
And Vicky, your request is for this fiscal year through 2021?
Mhm. Well, it's ongoing or whatever. I mean, we have money in the budget for a deputy already, but yeah, I mean, we haven't updated this pay for years.
Yeah, yeah. So what would be the start date, Vicky? What were you proposing then?
For, well, starting for 2021.
Oh, okay, so it'd be retroactive. in
Yeah.
that regard. Okay.
Well, any other discussion? Any motions?
I move we update the, go ahead.
No, my question is, why don't we do it for 2021? I think it's certainly something we should do to upgrade it. The only thing you said was retroactive, but it's for new hours starting after it gets put in place tonight, if the motion is, yeah. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move we update the salary for the deputy clerk position to $18 an hour, and that she be allowed to hire a deputy clerk. It's my motion.
Do I hear a second to that?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed? The motion's carried. Okay,
Thank you.
Vicky, don't turn off your microphone just yet. The next one is for discussion and action on a website upgrade.
Yeah, our website hasn't been upgraded, and they sent me a thing, you know, the proposal that I sent to everyone. So I'm just assuming that, you know, it's been a while and we're on the old system type deal, and I don't really know much about it because I wasn't in charge of the website, you know, before or whatever, but, you know, just like everything else, you know, the programs get, you know, change and whatnot. So they had just sent that out, so I forwarded it to you guys, and you'll have to decide it. So it's a $500 fee is what it looks like to upgrade it.
Vicky, I
So
seen
is this a new web?
charge on there.
Go ahead.
Wasn't there a monthly charge on there for access?
I don't know. I don't really know
Yes, there is.
what, for access for what?
Users.
User fee or whatever, yeah.
Well, we only have one user.
Oh, so you're the only user then? Is
For the
that what you're
website?
saying? Yeah.
Yes.
So it'd be $5 a month for a user fee for 1 to 5 users?
Yep. We've only ever had one.
Is this a new website, Vicky, or is this the one
No,
we're
it's
using now?
no, it's the same one. It's still Town Web Design.
Okay, it just is an update?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And is our email part of that as well?
We pay a yearly thing for the emails. Because we had the website first, and then we added email to get the town, you know, to get everybody's emails. So the $500 is, you know, the $499.99 or whatever that is for the website update. I'm still trying to figure out the whole email thing because we've had nothing but issues with the emails, so.
Who,
Yeah,
who
with
works
this,
on, who works on the design with them?
You don't get to design it. That's what their design is.
That you just get what you get?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
so how about, as far, so email, would it replace our email with name.com and
Well, supposedly they don't even use name.com anymore,
okay,
which they never even told us that. So, I mean, I spent a whole entire weekend on the computer with them, messaging back and forth, trying to get our emails to work because nobody could get into their emails.
yeah,
You know, I mean, Ken said too, he's like, I'm having trouble. I can't. I'm like, don't worry, everybody's having trouble. Nobody can get into their emails.
yeah,
And then that's when
That-
they
that's
told me
what I-
that they don't even use mail.name. They did something else. And I'm like, well, you could have told us that. And so I'm still trying to get information on the emails. So I don't know how that's going to work yet, if we're going to change. So when I get
I
more
would,
answers on the email, I'll let you know that. But it just makes me nervous because if we're having that many problems with our emails and they're saying you should update your website, I think I mean, we've had that website for quite a while now.
yeah.
And it's, so I have a feeling that it really does need to be updated.
so Dan, the only reason I asked that is if we could get a twofer, if we could upgrade our website and perhaps get an upgraded email at the same time, that would be win-win.
Yeah.
There may be cost to that. When I look at the cost, Vicky, on page 7 under the optional items, all it says is branded email address is optional, and then it says cost is varies. What's the other part on that the third item there? It says town web online payment system for $199. Do you have
Yeah, we
any idea
ain't
what
doing
that
that. We don't have that.
is? What is it?
I don't know, but we
So
don't
what
have
do-
any online payments.
Okay. So there may be a charge for email though? Is that what I
Well,
read in
There
there
is
when
a
it says
charge
there?
for email that we pay now. I think it's, Chris, do you know? Is it $5 per user or something? We pay it yearly.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
I just do a lump sum. I'd have to look up the
It's,
payments to
we
town
pay
web.
for the domain, or we pay a domain charge, and then we pay per email, and we could have up to 10 emails for this charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how we got all the @townofHudsonWI.com emails. So, and it was up,
Okay.
it's the least amount, it's a fixed amount because we have so few emails.
Yeah.
We don't have, I think it was up to 10 or something like that, or.
Yeah, they have a schedule on here, $4 a month per user for 6 to 10 users.
So.
Yep.
But that's like that we pay separately from the website. We never get a bill all together. So.
Okay.
I will
I
say
do
our
have
website,
another question real.
I
Don,
will
I
say
got
our
another
website
question.
could use an upgrade.
Pardon me, Tim?
On that page 7 at the top, I finally read it into detail. It says save $500 off the normal price of $9.99 if your proposal is signed before July 13th of 2020.
I know, and he didn't even send it to me until like I think I got it just before New Year's or something, because he was supposed to send it to
Yeah.
me, and that's what I told him. I'm like, okay, you have July in here, and you never even. So I'm assuming we just kind of, like I said, they're
Okay.
not.
All right. Okay.
Town web design's not very. I don't know, user friendly. Let's just
Okay.
put it
It's
that
the
way.
one-year code extension. Yeah.
But
Okay.
that's what I said to him. We're still getting the $500 instead of $1,000, correct? And he said yes.
Okay.
He's like, well, I kept thinking I sent that to you. I'm like, and he's like, I see I didn't. And I was like, no, you didn't. So I didn't even know about it.
Okay, well, we've
Sure.
got several other items I want to get to yet on the agenda. So what does the board wish to do on this?
I think we should just move ahead with it.
Agree.
I'll
Okay,
make a
does someone
motion
want to make a motion?
somebody make a motion to upgrade the website.
I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to upgrade the website to a new design that fits the town better.
Well, I don't know if it's a whole new design or not. I think it just might
Oh.
be. Don't get that excited, because I don't know if that's what it didn't.
I definitely think, it's just me, but it's my personal opinion is the website needs to be redesigned to some
Well,
degree.
I couldn't, no, I didn't like it from the get-go, but I wasn't in charge.
So I'll make a motion to move ahead with
Upgrading
upgrading
the website.
the
Okay.
website
At $500?
at
It's,
$500.
Mhm.
At
Do I hear a s-
$499.
Do I hear a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion?
Just some more information on, Vicky, if you would check about our emails. If,
I know, and I keep asking about it. Our emails are working now.
well, thank you. I just wanted
They
to,
have, I mean, it was just that weekend, but I was like, I'm in the middle of elections and whatnot, and I really need to be able to get at my emails. So, some of you didn't even know that you couldn't get at your email. But,
Yeah, because mine go onto my phone. It locked me out of my phone down
Yes.
near January 1st.
right. And that's what it was. They failed, what we found out is they failed to upgrade their certificate. So,
Wow.
when it rolled over to the new year or whatever. And so, yeah, of course, I was on with them, on New Year's Day and the next day and the next day. I'm like, come on, people, we need to keep things
Okay, there's-
moving.
Okay, there's been a motion made, it's been seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? The motion's carried. Okay, I want to jump ahead to number 14. And I don't know, I saw a Chris here earlier, but I don't know if he's still here or not. But I want to move to discussion and action on a building permit fines for 655 Hillary Farm Road. And is there anyone here representing or part of 655 Hillary Farm Road? Okay, anyone at all? All right, let me just background the board quickly. I think most of you know the issues. There was a 24 by 24 foot shed that the person did not pull a building permit fee, did not pull a building permit for. A letter was sent by Brian in September of 2020 saying that you need a building permit. In November or December, another letter was sent that said you need a building permit and fines will be levied. In January, we sent a further letter saying that you're subject to fines, and I asked Brian to see where the shed was in relationship to the setbacks from the road. And apparently, after measuring it, it's 12 feet into the right-of-way on the road on Hillary Farm Road. So as a board, we need to discuss this tonight, but the issues are not only the fines, but the fact that it's 12 feet into the right-of-way. I asked Brian for his opinion as a zoning administrator and seeing what's been done on the county in the past. His concern was similar to mine, that the concrete pad could stay there like a driveway or a pad would in the right of way, but not the building. A new pad could be poured and it could be moved. But I want to throw it out for discussion, but the takeaway is that no permits were pulled, and it's 12 feet. The long side of it is 12 feet in the right of way. So with that, and Tim, I think you might be able to amplify or clarify that as well, but we have some issues as a board tonight that we need to discuss.
I think it's pretty straightforward, Don. Chris called me after he talked to the Basts, and Brian Wirtz said, Chris's comment was, well, he talked to a neighbor and they said because it's not a residence, he doesn't need a building permit. Brian says, you can't believe how many people tell him that when they didn't pull a building permit. So it's just, he screwed up. And I told Chris that. I said, his opportunity to get a variance is almost none because building it in the wrong location is not a hardship.
Correct.
So I said, you can call the clerk and try to get on the Board of Adjustment agenda to get a variance. But I said, call Brian and see if he's going to start the fines. And he hadn't done any of that. He talked to me like 2-3 weeks ago. I think we ought to just start the fines. And he knows he's going to have to move that shed because he's not applying for a variance. You know what I mean? And I don't think, and I told him, you know, unless you got it where you absolutely can't move it on your septic system, you have no reason that you put it where you put it. And the only reason he put it where he put it was because it's a flat spot on the hill. You know, it's just move forward with it. Send it fines and move forward.
I don't think there's much to discuss. It seems like he's been ignoring every letter and anything that's been sent to him. So, I mean, I guess if it was me, I would at least address the letters.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like we haven't heard from him. Is that correct?
Well, yes, Brian.
That's what it appears.
After the January 8th letter, Brian did hear from him, but that's it.
Yeah,
he ain't done much.
Yeah,
you know,
from September to January 8th. That's a lot. That's a long time.
He denied that he
did call the office. He called the office and asked about a variance. We told him the paperwork was on the website where it was and that he could fill it out and make an application, and he never did.
Okay.
Well, I agree with Tim. You know, variances aren't a relief valve, but you can't just ignore permits and build a shed and then claim a hardship. I mean, there's all kinds of state law swirling around that, those deals. I think what we have to do as a board is, if we're in agreement, is to figure out how we start implementing the fines and or the moving of the shed through courts if we have to. But unless there's other discussions tonight, I think the shed is small enough that it's got to be moved.
Yeah. Don, just a couple of questions. Is it our standard procedure when we are initiating a fine type of situation that we send it by a certified or some sort of a proof of mailing?
That's a Vicky Bryan question. I don't do that.
Yeah, I know. I was just wondering if there's somebody that knew.
Well, he already knows that he's getting fined. I mean, he acknowledged the letter.
He does.
So
he does.
I mean, he's just been ignoring it, thinking it would go away, and now he realizes, you know, that, you know, the first letter was really nice. You just, you need a building permit, and then the second letter was like, nope, you need a building permit, and now you're getting fined. And now the third letter is like, are you going to contact us about any of this, or just, you know, he's just been ignoring.
Yes, I guess let's, as a board, decide. He claims he didn't get the September one. It's $25 a day. And technically, Brian says you can go back to the day he built it, but you don't know when he started it. He denies that he got the September letter. And at $25 a day, even if you go back to that September 24th, that day, that's like a $3,000-4,000 bill for violations at $25 a day. Maybe we want to just say, start billing him since the January 8th letter now, and tell him he's got to move the shed.
Why not the November letter?
I thought it was January. Was there a November letter? Was that when it went out? Was it in November?
Don said there was a November letter.
Whenever it was, Tim, we could
correct.
Go to that.
Whatever that date is, that second letter, we ought to bill from that date. Correct.
Yeah, I thought September was the second letter.
Yeah, and I've got one dated here December 28th as well.
Okay. November 28th?
No, I've got one dated here December 28th from Brian.
Well, that's probably the January letter.
Yeah. But from the second letter is when we should be billing him for violations. If there was one in November.
What does it say on
we
your
should bill-
letter, Susan? Does it say second notice or third?
It does not stipulate that. It just says our office sent you a letter in September regarding the shed. Please submit to our office immediately.
So there was only 2 notices. That's
And
the
then it says
second notice
failure to obtain the property permit by January 8th will result in fines and forfeiture.
There you go, January 8th.
So
Is
I
the
think
date.
Okay,
January 8th.
okay. Okay,
And remember, we can, 25 is the minimum per day. I think our ordinance says up to $500 a day. So I'm not picking at the numbers right here. If we want to do it from January 8th or December 28th or September, it's the board should pick a date, say we're going to start finding you on these dates, and then move right forward with you have to move it. It's going to take him a while to figure out how to build a pad and move it and get a mover. I don't know how he's going to do that. I guess that's not anything that I've studied.
and I agree. And I, just because he said to me that he was going to paint it the same color as the house, I don't know what kind of building it is. I haven't gone and looked at it. Is it some manufactured thing or is it stick built? I don't know.
It looks stick built to me, but I don't know.
It's not going to be easy to move. My guess is it's going to be tough to move.
Reading the letter here, it says exactly, failure to obtain the proper permit by January 8th, 2021 will result in fines and forfeitures per town ordinance.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think that tells him right there. I mean, I think it would be hard to go back to September.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So start doing the
January 8th, start finding
January
25 bucks a day.
and have Brian send them a certified letter that it's,
I agree.
that it's, gotta, it will be, the fines will be whatever, and it needs to be moved. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or
Correct.
buts that it's gotta be moved. He knows that, but, so,
Someone want to put that in the form of a motion?
I would make a motion to send a certified letter to Mr. Linder that as of January 8th, fines and forfeitures, or fines will be assessed, and the barn has to be moved.
I would say the fines are
$25.
being assessed.
Yeah, are being assessed.
Are being assessed, yeah, and
At
$25 per day.
First
Yes.
off, that the building needs to be moved and
Yep.
the fines are going to be assessed starting January.
And just to add your motion so we're clear, so we have a clear delineation from the board, and will continue to be assessed until the
Until removal of the barn.
has been satisfactorily moved,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Yes,
Agreed.
that's my motion.
all right, so you want to send a certified letter that fines are being assessed at $25 per day, and the building must be removed, and the fines will continue to be assessed until the building is moved.
Right, and they are being assessed from
From
January
January 8th,
2021.
2021.
So they are accruing, and that's the start date, and they'll continue to accrue, and he needs to pay them, and they'll continue until it's been satisfactorily moved.
And what about a permit then?
Boy.
Well,
yeah.
like,
I mean, he still needs a permit.
Needs a
He-
permit and double. Needs to pay the permit and the fine besides.
yeah, I agree.
You know, and that needs to be in
I
the
was
motion.
going to say that if he needs a permit for the movement of the new one, now we'll have two things without a permit, so.
Yeah.
All right, Ken, you want to add that to your motion?
Yeah, I
Because
want to add the permit portion to my
Permit,
motion.
the permit and the fine on the permit, so what happens is the permit doubles in price. So if
Correct.
Yeah.
if it was $100 permit, it's 200.
Correct.
Correct.
All right, is everybody clear on that? I want to keep moving it ahead.
Yeah.
You got your
Second.
motion? Everybody clear on the motion?
Yep.
Did someone
Yes.
second it?
I'll second it.
I did.
Oh, okay. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed, the motion is carried. Okay. I want to go back on the agenda to discussion on Trout Brook Road, bridge repair at a cost of approximately $5,000. This should only take us 30 seconds. I sent you those pictures and everything in your packet. The engineers do their annual checking of the rust and the gussets on the bridge plates, and they've recommended upgrades to Trout Brook, and it can be done during the winter time at a cost of approximately $5,000. I thought I should bring it to your attention, and we should make a motion to that effect. So does anyone would like to make that motion tonight?
Oh, so moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in
The
favor?
estimate is approximately $5,000. We should fix it no matter what that cost is.
Exactly.
That's my discussion, you know.
And they can do it in the winter time, so we should get it approved
Good.
tonight. Let them
Good.
get
I
going.
agree. Good.
Okay.
Good.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All
I
those opposed? The motion's carried. Okay. I think the last item that I have for us under communications is to check your schedule. We still need to do our workshop.
No, we still need to vote on the
Oh, yeah,
amending
okay.
the ordinance.
You're right. I'd crossed it out.
Yeah.
So we need a motion to amend submission deadline in zoning ordinance 105-12J 1A, 105-13 I1, 105-14I, 105-14.1, J1 and J2.
Okay, do I hear someone like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we amend, those.
I just gave the motion.
Okay, right.
Yep.
Okay, to 15 days. Is that what we want?
Yeah, to amend the
No.
submission deadline to 15 days in zoning ordinance. And
Yeah.
I gave you all those numbers.
Yep.
Correct. Do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made, it's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed? The motion's carried. Okay, I don't think I've missed anything. I've got a bunch of notes here. The other one is your schedules for our workshop. Vicki asked us to take a look at the upgrading of our codes for our ordinance and also the proposed language for us to look at from Liz. I'm glad Liz is still here. So with that, I'd ask if you have any availability this week or right away next week when we could meet on that.
I don't have time next week. I got in-person absentee voting and the next week's the election. So there's nothing available.
But we'll meet without you on the workshop part of it then on the other part. So Liz, any day next week that's better for you? Tuesday? I'm out Monday. That's the only day I can't meet is Monday, the 8th. I believe that's Monday.
Okay, Tuesday and Wednesday next week are best for me.
Yeah,
All right.
Tuesday
Me
works for
too.
me.
How about Tuesday of next week? Does that work for everyone?
Tuesday works for me.
that works.
Similar afternoon
Works.
kind of a deal, late afternoon.
Yeah, can we try and work around your schedule? We
Yeah,
might
it'd be nice if we could do it around 3 anyway, or I get off work at 3:30. I can go in early and leave early.
Why don't we try and do it around 3 o'clock on Tuesday?
Sure.
I'm working for the town of Hudson answering phones, I think next week, right, Vicki?
That is correct. Liz is not available next week.
Okay. How about this week? Well, any other day next week that would work for you, Liz?
Well, I think it's all next week that I'm
It's
working.
Monday through Friday that we have in-person absentee voting next week. So,
This
Okay.
week's terrible for me.
well, this week there's not time to post it anyway.
No.
I mean,
Okay, then let's shoot for, we don't want to do it on Valentine's Day. How about the 15th or 16th of February? That's a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Elections. is
That's
16.
election day.
Tuesday's
No.
Okay. How about the
And we
8th?
ain't gonna be in the hall on the 15th.
No,
Boy, we're starting to run out of meeting dates.
17th or 18th will work for me.
How about the 17th?
Works.
What is that? Is that a Wednesday?
That's a
Yes.
Thursday.
No, it's
No, it's
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday, excuse me,
Are you doing this by Zoom or in person?
in person.
Well, then you're not doing it on Wednesday because the town hall is not going to be put back together yet. Unless you guys
We-
want to come
we can
put the
sit there.
hall back together.
Well, then let's do it via Zoom. Okay, so Wednesday, the 16th, 3 p.m.
Wednesday, the 17th.
Wednesday, 17th.
17th.
Wednesday's the 17th.
Wednesday, the 17th, 3 p.m. Kind of like an auction, going once, going twice. So that works for everyone?
Yep.
And what is this? A working session for what?
It's a-
The language for the codes?
It's for the working session for the work that Liz has put together on updating our ordinances.
The parking lots and
Landscape,
lighting and landscaping.
Parking lots, lighting,
chickens, I don't think
and
chickens might
landscaping.
have made it on there.
Are you-
Yeah, if you want to, we can, yeah, that I
What,
sent to you earlier, but that's still open too.
what is
Right.
it?
The chicken
Just-
order.
Yeah, landscape, lighting, parking. It's the stuff that I sent out to everyone when I requested the meeting. And then Vicky, you'll have to help us. What was your comment that you needed help from the board on that pagination or codification of the upgrading of our codes? You
Well,
said
we're
we
gonna
needed-
have, I sent all that off to you guys. That was that whole audit that we had done. So we're gonna have to sit and go piece by piece by piece by piece and go through all that as well.
Okay, so then, do we want to try and set that meeting, or should we set that when we're at the Wednesday, the 17th meeting?
I don't think you're gonna have time to sit and go, I mean,
No, we're not doing it on Wednesday, the 17th. Do you want to try and set a time now, or when we're together on the 17th, we pick another time?
Oh,
Vicky?
I don't care.
yeah, I don't care either if but I think that we'll probably run out of time, don't you think?
No, we're gonna have to set another time.
Yeah.
Don's
Yeah.
question is, do we want to set that date now or on the 17th?
Let's do it then, on the
Okay.
17th.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
getting a ways out. Let's do it on the 17th.
Okay, so
Okay.
for tonight, we're just doing, and I'll send out the Zoom. Tonight, we're just doing Wednesday, the 17th, 3 p.m. on the issues that I've already sent out on landscaping, lighting, all of that. Then we'll pick another time to go through all that stuff that Vicky needs on the code.
Okay.
Okay, all right, that was easy.
okay, well, a lot of that stuff on the code's you're gonna have to talk to the attorney as well. So once you guys all look at it, some of it's simple. Not a big deal. You'll be able to pass it in about 2 seconds at a board meeting. But some of it is more in depth and the attorney's gonna have to get involved in it.
So help us, Vicky, as the clerk, help us what we need to be doing to help you. What can we be looking at and what can we be sending to the attorney?
I didn't know we were gonna discuss that. I didn't bring the audit thing home with me, so I have a marked up copy at the office that, I mean, I went through everything and
Okay.
made notes on everything, but I don't have it here to go through it, so.
That's okay. I'm just saying there's things you can send us on it, or we can take different sections of it to break it up. Anything we can do to help to move it along, we will. Okay. Any other items before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Any other items? Thank you, everyone.
No.
Stay safe out there.
Okay.
But do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those
Second.
in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Vicky, Chris, Liz. Thank all the board members. And stay safe. We'll see you
Have a good
guys.
night.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Good night.
Good night.